impacting all spheres of our life. We would like to begin by thanking you all for being a part of PubVision, the business of digital publishing. A special thank you to Kantar for being the knowledge partner. Without further ado, joining us today, we have a distinguished set of leaders. Please welcome Mr. Biswapriya, Executive Vice President, Insights Division, Kantar, and Mr. Puneet Avasthi, Director, Specialist Business, Insights Division, Kantar. I would request all the delegates to keep posting the questions in the chat box, and the panel will address a selected few at the end of the session. Over to you guys.
Thanks a lot. Thank you very much. And good afternoon, everyone. I have been struggling. Interestingly, this is a discussion, a webinar on living digital. However, I've been struggling with data connectivity since this morning. So I will switch off my video in order to conserve on data bandwidth and get on with the presentation without any further ado. So, well, the last few years, and then this has been a secular trend over a period of time, the unprecedented and pervasive change in the digital landscape of the country. However, what we have witnessed is only the tip of the iceberg in terms of the role of digital in our lives. In the post-COVID normal, digital has emerged as a key enabler for individuals, families, and businesses to connect with each other, to draw inspiration, and to drive a sense of positivity and purpose in life. This has resulted in a seminal shift in perspectives of all Indians towards digital, irrespective of their location, socioeconomic status, age, or gender, and thereby emerging as an essential hygiene need for all citizens. This presentation provides you a snapshot of how digital has evolved over the last 1 year and where is it heading in the next 3 to 4 years as we see it and basis our data and insights. So I'm just struggling with moving it to the next slide. Yeah. So as per Kantar's iCube 2020, our syndicated study in the digital space, the shift in the perspective towards digital is expected to propel the number of digitally connected individuals to more than 900 million by 2025. This will mean that more than 2/3 of all Indians will be connected to internet by then. This growth will be driven by segments that are currently underpenetrated, primarily rural India, and of course, school-going children who've not really, who are exposed, but many of them are not using internet as such. More than 7 out of every 10 Indians who will join the digital revolution here onwards are going to be from rural India. This has a significant implication for the digital ecosystem, from the kind of infrastructure that needs to be brought in to the kind of services and content that needs to be offered to tap into this audience that is being created. India will witness its next rung of digital revolution here onwards and strongly powered by rural India. As per iCube 2020, the overall active internet users in India grew by 8% in 2020. This is despite lockdowns, restrictions in travel, and challenges in accessing a new connection, especially in small cities and rural India, where the potential for new internet user acquisition has been quite high, as we've seen in the earlier slide. As of 2020, India had 622 million internet users, which is almost twice the population of United States of America. The internet users in India are no longer limited to selected cohorts. It is already well distributed across all segments, whether it is across different age groups or socioeconomic or NCCS as we know it. Interestingly, however, South India has the highest penetration of internet across the country. And it is also the most urbanized parts of the country as such. There are many amongst you who may believe that the activity that we witness on ground cannot merely be expressed through a single-digit growth of 8%. And you are very right. 2020 was a year which witnessed a digital revolution, not merely by expanding the base of internet users, but by going deeper amongst the existing users and delivering services to the constituency that has been created across a wider bouquet of use cases. The year saw a significant increase in usage of digital services. In terms of stated average duration of internet usage, we saw a 21% increase, and the average time spent by an internet user on the internet was close to about 2 hours a day. We also saw a 42% increase in the heavy users of internet. Interestingly, the use of smart devices, which includes the likes of smart speakers, smart sticks, and smart TVs, grew by a mammoth 125% as a lot of OTT consumption moved to smart devices. All of these mean that the digital world is increasingly taking shape, and in certain cases, replacing mainstream media as far as entertainment is concerned needs to be considered as one of the primary options by marketers when planning, planning for their brand communications and media reach. The increase in the duration of usage has also resulted in individuals doing a lot more over the internet. In the forefront of the different use cases that have emerged and are driving the digital revolution are digital payments, online gaming, and OTT. Let's start with a deep dive into the OTT media and its evolution in the country. Gone are the days when TV, radio, or movie theaters were the only source of entertainment we had. India has seen a tremendous rise in the consumption of video content on various platforms in the last couple of years. Growing internet and smartphone penetration, along with the cheaper data plans that are available to us, have given a major fillip to the OTT market in the country and its growth. The pandemic and the subsequent lockdown has fueled this growth, in a sense, has been a catalyst to fuel this growth manifolds. And no wonder we see an unprecedented growth of 2.5x in usership of OTT over the last 3 years. Just like it is with the rest of the world, OTT viewership in the country is at an all-time high now. India is the fastest growing OTT market at 28.6% CAGR and is expected to become the sixth largest, market by 2024. From just 2 OTT platform providers in 2012 to over 40 players now, the OTT revolution has come a long way in India. We have more than 579 million video and 345 million music online users today. In a different way, if you look at merely online video, it is now being consumed by almost half of India's population. And that's the size of this media that is being created. Further, cheap and efficient mobile recharge packages, along with good and improved internet connectivity, has permitted both rural and urban populations to consume video content at a scorching pace. Interestingly, rural shows a greater promise to grow across both video and audio platforms. Perhaps the lack of other entertainment options has spurred audiences in Tier 2, Tier 3, and rural India who had not discovered OTT viewing up until the pandemic struck are now adapting to these platforms and taking to them with gusto. Hence, the inclusion of regional and mass market content will be the lever to engage this new viewer for sticking on to the platform. And that is critical because the options are so many, and therefore a differentiated content strategy becomes that much more important to ensure stickiness with one platform. Significantly, OTT shows a secular growth and video adoption is happening across all demographic segments. It is interesting to note that unlike popular belief that OTT is only a passion of the young male's realm as such, younger women have caught on to OTT significantly over the last year or so and are increasingly driving growth across both urban and rural India. And one of the reasons why this is being fueled, this is being, this kind of constituency is being created is because, whilst television was all about family viewing, the biggest draw of OTT lies in the ability of the platforms to provide a personal viewing experience to the individual. The convenience of viewing and the quality of content that is available are critical drivers that are fueling OTT media's growth. And these reasons have remained unchanged over a few years now. What is important to note also is the fact that price is no more a deterrent. People are willing to pay for a premium, for good quality and new content. It is interesting to note that the preference for content is identical between both urban and rural markets. Rural also relies on OTT for following news and for gaining knowledge. And this is something that content development teams need to be mindful of. And these differences provide opportunities for suitable differentiation of platforms to connect better with the emerging large constituency in rural India for OTT platforms. During the last few months, we saw Bollywood also join the OTT bandwagon. Several movies have been premiered on various OTT platforms. This has been one of the game changers for OTT platforms in garnering eyeballs. Consumers have more than lapped up this phenomena that has occurred largely last year. And our survey shows that more than two-thirds, close to about two-thirds of consumers are in favor of movies being released directly on OTT and would want this to continue in future too. So this is pretty much a new normal. That movies in hopefully in a time when we are going to be able to go back to cinema halls as well, the consumer also wants a parallel release on OTT because that's something that people have gotten used to, and there is a strong constituency for new content on OTT and the kind of reach that it will afford across the length and breadth of the country for a movie that is being premiered in the first 1 week is unparalleled. The year 2020 also saw the streaming wars intensifying with multiple freebies being offered by players. Streamfest of Netflix alone saw a usership increase of 2.5x for Netflix. While almost every streaming service under the sun has offered free trials, and consumers are lapping up the trials that are, the free trials that are available, the real test, of course, will be in customer retention. Streaming of live sports, and this is a no-brainer, especially cricket, has turned out to be a critical differentiator in India's OTT firmament, as shown by Hotstar, of course. We saw a growth of 1.5x unique usership and 3x engagement levels for Hotstar during IPL 2020. This data is from our OTT panel, which Kantar and Vision are running jointly across 9 metros, which has now been extended to represent the entire population residing in town classes above 1 lakh in the country. We believe that rich sports programming is going to give players a distinct edge over the rest of the OTT platforms, and it's something that is it should be an important cog in the wheel for OTT platforms to create stickiness for their platform. Therefore, to summarize, from an overall growth perspective, the outlook for the OTT segment seems bullish, extremely bullish, as far as India is concerned. Video streaming has become one of the most successful avenues in the content consumption space in the country. Even smaller OTT platforms are making a significant impact in the market. The future for OTT, however, is going to be defined by changes in infrastructure and broadband coverage, of course, but also through differentiated strategies which are both content and marketing anchored, and the suitable promotions that are given to consumers to try and to continue with a particular service. Content clearly is a deal maker for OTT. and will only get more competitive in the future. OTT providers will need to research and map out a content strategy that will appeal to local audiences, their tastes, and and in line with content preferences and habits of uh, their customer franchise. All of which are critical for customer acquisition, as also and very critically retention. I will now request Bishwa to take you through the rest of this presentation. Thank you. Bishwa, over to you.
Thank you, Puneet. And if you can move to the next slide, please, Puneet. So as we have seen, the OTT has actually evolved in a big way. It's emerged as a strong entertainment media. And in a lot of cases, it has actually replaced the conventional sources too. Now, another area which has actually grown significantly over the last 1 year and more is online gaming. This area has actually seen doubling its user base since 2019 and is one of the fastest growing segment in the online space. Puneet, if next slide, please. Now, if the online gamers of India was to be a country, it would actually have been the fifth largest country in the world. That is the size of the online gamers that we have in India today. That's huge actually in terms of numbers. Now, as marketeers, this opens up a significant question and an opportunity for all of us. But the core question that remains in the minds of marketeers at all points in time is that, is this segment actually homogeneous or is this heterogeneous in nature? Now, what we have found is that this segment is actually not very homogeneous. It is actually very heterogeneous. And the last 1 year has made it all the more so. If you look at it, unlike popular perceptions, the gamers are actually a very good representation of the country's demographic. Almost half of them are female. We see a very good mix of large city and small city. And we also see a very good mix which comes by age groups as well. And therefore, this is a segment which is actually the most amenable to segmentation and targeting for almost all kinds of products and services. Next slide, please. They're also the ones who are spending more time playing games, and they're doing that more frequently, especially after the 2020 lockdown, the first lockdown that we had. Gaming has actually become a part of their daily routine today. So it becomes all the more important for us to find opportunities to speak to them and speak to them more often. The next question, therefore, is that we know that they spend a lot of time and there is a fair bit of distribution, but where do we find them? And in the next slide, we see that on an average, the gamers play 2 to 3 games, and these are spread across at least 2 genres. Even if you look at the top 10 games that we have got through our mobile audience measurement panel, we see that there is a fair bit of mix. There are 3 games which are multiplayer battle games. There are 3 which are fantasy sports, and the rest of the 4 are regular games, but across, again, varied genres, whether it's board games, whether it's casual games, arcade, etc. So there's a good spread of the usage and in terms of the interest areas that people have. Next slide, please. What we've also seen is that the users are spending a lot more time. On an average, users are spending almost an hour playing games every day. And that's an undivided attention and focused engagement that one is seeing with respect to the gamers. The average time does differ based on whether it's an action game or whether it's a casual game. But the key insight here is that there is focused attention and engagement, and at an overall level, it does hover around 55 minutes a day. So all of this is great news, right? But the key question is, how does it help my brand if I were to speak to the gamers? The next slide, please. Actually, what we found out is that online gamers are actually very lucrative to all brands. And that's primarily because, unlike the others, gamers do not really ignore ads. On the contrary, they actually notice them and they claim to be influenced by them. just look at the data. 40% of them are likely to be more influenced by the reviews. 22% of them are more likely to be influenced by the advertisement when compared to the non-gamers. And it does not stop only at influence. They are more likely to make purchase decisions too based on the advertisements that they see. And that is what truly differentiates them from the others. Brands can potentially leverage this behavior pattern and build stronger connections with their customers through this platform. Next slide, please. The other interesting thing that we have noticed is that the gamers are not really uh, a close set of people who just play games. They are a lot more evolved from an internet usage perspective as well. And they are over-indexed on a lot of other platforms as well. For example, they are avid media consumers, whether it's in terms of the media apps that they use, the social media apps that they use, or the music streaming apps that they use, or even the video streaming apps that they use. There are also a lot more of people who enjoy doing online transactions. As a matter of fact, even when we look at a relatively very highly penetrated digital wallet and UPI segment, they are about 16% more likely to be over-indexed when compared to the online gamers. So there are opportunities that exist to reinforce our message to the gamers through a lot of the alternate platforms too, and need not only be through the gaming platform. So given all of this, gamers as a community have emerged as a segment that's very exciting for a lot of the marketers. And that's because they are significantly large, as we have seen, with more than 200 million users and growing. They are representative. They have all segments, whether it's the women or the men, the older or the younger age group, the larger cities or the smaller cities. And most importantly, they love to be spoken to. Uh, Moving on, the next and the third high growth category that we have seen and we have spoken about in the last 1 year is a segment that has touched all of us in many ways than one. In many cases, a lot of us who are a part of this call today would have used it and experimented with it for the first time last year. So yes, I'm talking about digital wallets that all of you will be aware of. And what we mean by digital wallet is specifically UPIs and e-wallets. So this segment actually saw a significant growth with respect to 2019. And this uptake was across both urban and rural India. The pandemic actually fast-tracked the adoption of digital payment, and actually this became a most sought after and convenient way to make contactless payments by the customers to the beneficiaries as such. Next slide, please. The UPI and e-wallets have actually become democratized the whole use of digital payments in the country during the pandemic. The credit card and debit cards have been around for more than a few decades now. But in the short span of time that the UPIs and e-wallets have actually been around, they have been able to grow significantly more than that of debits and credit card. So today, we have 4 times more UPI and e-wallet users than we have a combined set of debit and credit cards. More importantly, this has also been able to an extent, bridge the digital divide in terms of the payments. It's been able to get a lot more people onto the bandwagon of digital payments who are not so earlier. A third of the users actually have neither uh, uh, a credit card or a debit card. And therefore, the UPI and the e-wallet are the first ways in which they have got into the digital platform. So this actually makes it very attractive and opens a whole new world of possibilities for a lot of them. Next slide, please. And like the gamers, the users of digital wallets, the wallets and the UPIs are also highly democratized. A lot of the people, are almost more than half of them, actually come from small town and rural. We have also seen a greater financial inclusion, therefore, that this is being able to drive with the help of the smartphones and the internet access that's available. There's also significant headroom for the e-wallet and UPIs to grow even further in the smaller towns in rural India. This provides a huge opportunity for businesses that directly benefit from this, like the e-commerce and online service providers, but also for a lot of the offline businesses that wish to accelerate their businesses beyond the top 30 or 40 cities in India. Next slide, please. So the e-wallet now is the preferred mode of payment for a large number of online shoppers. The presence have grown by 15 times over the last 2 years, and that's a significant growth that we have seen in terms of the e-wallets. There is also an opportunity to cross-promote different products and offer via payment apps and UPI-enabled services a lot of these new products which can tap into the potential that the e-wallets and the UPIs offer and make it a lot more holistic as a product. Next slide, please. Not only has the number of digital payment users increased in the last 1 year or so, we have also seen them use digital wallets and UPI a lot more frequently. As a matter of fact, there's been a 2x increase in the number of transactions that users have made vis-a-vis that in 2019. Next slide, please. So the growth of e-wallets have actually opened a whole new world of possibilities for both the businesses, the marketeers, and of course the consumers as well. There are newer business models that are emerging to leverage the strength and diversity of this network. As this network grows into smaller cities and rural, it will further enable rural entrepreneurship, and it will also increase the community of users, thereby enabling alternate distribution models and value additions for the B2B businesses too. Moving on to the next slide. So at the initial stage of our presentation, Puneet spoke about the three key areas of growth that we have witnessed, that of OTT, gaming, and digital payments, which we have spoken to you about. However, these three were only the tip of a very high growth emergence of use cases that we have seen in the digital space over the last year or so. There have been a host of other new growth areas that we have witnessed. And many of them will continue to grow in importance in the ecosystem as a whole as things move forward. All of these actually bring in a certain disruptive change, which not only impacts their own business models or the business models that have existed in that part of the world, but also in terms of enabling and empowering other businesses to leverage its network. The 5 other key use cases that we have witnessed a growth of 20% or more in the last 1 year are those of online search, online shopping, video sharing and social media, online healthcare, and education. What we will do now is briefly look at some of these in some more detail. From an online shopping perspective, the year has been a game changer. We all know about it. The segment saw a 35% growth in the users. And this has been propelled not only by the urban users, but also by the rural users. So online shopping is no longer a large city phenomena as it used to be earlier. Not only that, the other interesting thing that will bring a smile to a lot of the players in the ecosystem is that there's been a growth of 76% amongst the urban shopping users who shop daily online. Who shop monthly online, which basically means that there is not only a growth in the number of users who are shopping online, but the frequency of online shopping has also increased, which means a lot more people who are earlier flirting with online shopping now have actually moved entirely into the online platform. Next slide, Puneet. Specifically, the one area that we have seen having grown significantly in the last 1 year is that of online grocery. And we have possibly many of us experienced it during the lockdown, not only last year, but also this year. This adoption has been across tiers and is no longer, again, a large city phenomenon. The evolution of the online shopping ecosystem will enable marketeers to identify and share targeted communication and offers to convert those who are fence-sitting customers to buy their products, use this as an advertising platform for their new products, and also launch some of their new products using these platforms. Moving on, The next area that we look at is the social media, and that has also witnessed a fair bit of shakeout. In spite of the ban on TikTok, the short video platforms continue to catch the imagination of the users. And Facebook and Insta are no longer unchallenged in this space. The emergence of short video platforms in the backdrop of the TikTok ban provided opportunities for many of the homegrown apps to vie for users and space in this fast growing but exciting new use case area. As influencer marketing grows, we believe that this space is going to grow in importance in leaps and bounds and will be a critical platform for most of the marketeers to look at going forward. The next slide, please. The another the other important and interesting area that we have seen grow during the last 1 year is that of healthcare. Uh, the fear of visiting hospitals meant that many of the patients and their kin needed to explore alternative ways of connecting with the healthcare providers. And several existing platforms actually emerged to help build this connect between the patients and the doctors. Not only the connect with the doctors, the online pharmacies also grew in prevalence. They, there were a lot of offline pharmacies who moved online and encouraged their regular customers to buy medicine online with promises of next day delivery. So all of these resulted in about a fourth of the internet users today using some sort of online healthcare facility, whether it's in terms of consultation, booking appointments, pharmacies, or booking medical checkups, etc. What's interesting though is that almost more than half of the online healthcare users actually came in from the states that were the most impacted by the COVID in the first wave. The states like Delhi, Maharashtra, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, and Gujarat. So it's only time which will tell that if this has a significant behavioral impact as well in terms of the usage of online healthcare services. But that's a very interesting thing to note as such. Moving on to the last of the areas that we are digging deep into, and we cannot uh, stop talking about the whole internet revolution in the last 1 year without talking about education. And that's because in the midst of all the pandemic induced uncertainties, our youth continued their learning journey, especially in the urban India. As per the iCube data that we have, about 65 million students and youth of India acquired education online in 2020. Delhi and Kerala showed the highest penetration, which is understandable given the large proportion of the urban base that we have. And UP had the largest number of online education users as such. So moving on to the next slide. So given all of this, what is the future of digital and what does it mean to all of us? To the next slide, please. So we've clearly seen that COVID has disrupted our lives in many ways than one. But if there's one gain that we have brought in, it has been the fast tracking of the digital revolution in the country like never before. Most of the use cases have been strongly influenced by COVID, and it has seen an impact in each of them, as we have spoken about. It will be important to ensure that the behavior in the new world order does not really revert back to the pre-COVID days, and there is a sustained effort made to bring in this behavioral change in all the areas of digital as such. This will be beneficial for all, whether it's the digital media and publishing companies, the marketeers, or most importantly, the consumers as such. Next slide, please. So as we move towards realizing the true potential of a digital connected India and attaining the 900 million plus internet users by 2025, which we project is a reality, is a possibility for sure. We believe that this is a journey that will need us to identify newer pegs for driving the success stories than what has worked so far. As we see it, there will be three key pegs on which the future of success for the digital industry will hinge on. We define them as the three C's of success for the India's digital inclusiveness and maturity as such. These three are communication, commerce, and content. Let me briefly talk about each of them. So communication, we all know, will be the key. What will drive communication is going to be vernacular and voice. They will be the preeminent role in the success of this journey. Vernacular is critical for reaching the masses. We need to do more than just having content in vernacular. We'll need to build interfaces. We'll need to have the right set of scripts. We need to have vernacular in a way that makes it simpler for people to use it. Also, vernacular is not only limited to the emerging internet users, but we have also learned through our researchers that it is also very relevant for the matured users who want to connect back to the roots. So there's a way to make it simple and effective, but in a way that it also connects to the diverse set of societies as well. This also have implications for the marketeers as they look at communicating in local language across a larger section of the audiences rather than just limiting it to a certain section as such. Similarly, while many of us have flirted with our assistants on our mobile phones, uh, for several emerging user constituency, voice might emerge as the only mode of accessing digital content over the next few years, and especially true for people as we reach segments where the literacy levels are lower. So therefore, voice and vernacular becomes very critical in the success of this journey as such. The next is that of commerce, which is another important constituency to this enablement. We have seen that during the lockdown, the role that online has played in addressing the needs, whether it's towards grocery or shopping or payment. Digital payment has really become a critical component of not only the digital ecosystem of India, but the entire payment ecosystem of India as such. The utility of similarly of the online commerce can no longer be negated, and its ability to provide access to quality products and services will actually drive its further utility as new internet users join in. Also, as it becomes more and more omnipresent with higher reach in rural India, the utility of online commerce for the country's economic growth will also become very evident. And finally, content, as we spoke about, will continue to be the king. The last 1 year has seen several innovations in the content, which has resulted in the growth of this segment. We have seen the emergence of OTT and the coming of age of gaming during the last 1 year. When the newsprints were not available, a lot of the print publications strengthened their online presence, and they are seeing benefits of that by being able to attract more customers and a much more diverse mix of customers. So, as we welcome the next set of internet users into the fold, I think all the players in the digital ecosystem will need to reimagine their offers such that they meet the aspirations and the expectations of these new users. At the same time, the reach of digital media as it increases, the marketers will also need to be innovative in targeting their users more effectively and efficiently. There are several options that are now available for the marketeers to reach their customers and offer them value. It will be important for those marketeers to make that right choice and what information and data they use to make that choice. Finally, the future of India is digital and it is impacting all the spheres of our life. Let us embrace it and use it in a way that benefits us as individuals, societies, and as the country as a whole. Thank you very much. We are open to questions.
Thank you so much for such an insightful session. So we have a very interesting question from one of our speakers, one of our panelists. I just wanted to check, what are the top things Indians buy online? So that's one of a very factual, interesting question because, everyone's been at home and during this pandemic specifically, how people have been spending a lot of time online. So is there any input which you would like to put on this?
Yeah. So let me take that question. So what we've seen is fashion and mobile continues to be the top two categories that are bought online. And if you look at in terms of hierarchy, that hasn't really changed from last year. What has happened though is, in addition to that, grocery has become an important category that has grown leaps and bounds. So it's not the top two category, but it's come up as one of the top five categories that are bought online. We've also seen large appliances, which is beyond mobile phones. It could be fridge, televisions, etc., that are being bought online in much higher numbers. And so what we've seen is that there have been a lot more categories that people are buying online. Earlier, they were buying, limiting themselves to mobile accessories and fashion. That's no longer the case. They are buying multiple categories online today. But the top two continues to be the same, which is fashion and mobile.
So do you think because of the whole, once the COVID lockdown restrictions are over and everything, so do you think the trend will remain the same or it will be, like increasing as we go ahead, specifically for other categories?
Puneet, would you want to take that question?
Yeah. So this is a trend that is here to stay for the simple reason that the the change that has occurred over the last couple of years has created a sense of confidence that can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we can
Am I
hear
Yes,
you.
we
audible?
can. Yes, we can.
Sure. The change that has occurred over the last couple of years due to the pandemic situation has, in a sense, created a sense of confidence that it is okay to be buying a larger bouquet of categories. So people have now gotten used to the fact that quality is not affected when you're purchasing if product is not something that a person actually looks at and kind of physically experiences before purchasing it. So that change has already occurred, and that we are not going to go back to the days where people had a lot of doubts about the quality of products. That change has occurred, and as long as e-commerce platforms continue to sustain quality of delivery, it is a growth that is very much here because it offers the consumer tremendous convenience. It offers the consumer tremendous convenience in terms of allowing him to access the merchandise he or she requires, sitting in a far-flung Patna or Raipur or wherever else, and not just being limited to products available in a Delhi or a Mumbai. And secondly, because you are able to browse through the entire range without really having to spend time and energy in actually moving from one shop to another to test out products, etc. So the change is here, and the way people are going to be doing a lot of shopping is they will look at certain items, they will discuss with friends, they will look at various blogs, various
Mhm.
comments on Instagram, etc., and then decide what to purchase, what not to purchase. So the nature of shopping in itself and the path to actual purchase has undergone a change, and that change is a reality. That's not something that's going to be erased.
Definitely. I mean, I think we all
We're
can
only going
see
to move
the
forward.
difference in the consumer journey as well. So the second question is a bit different from the first one. It talks more about the online news consumption. So if we can give certain insights on like number of people, how they've shifted from print to online news consumption, and how that impact is also seen in rural segment as well.
Okay, so let me try and answer that. So what we've seen is that online news has actually grown over the last 1 year or so. And very interestingly, what we have seen is that it's driven by online video news rather than online print news alone. So the print has been there. It's it's of interest to a lot of people, but the video news essentially has made significant penetration, and we've seen that to be more so in the rural India. I may not have exact numbers, but what I remember is at an overall level, about 30 to 40% of Indians actually watch uh, news as such. So it's actually a lot more. Uh, it's a lot more spread out. It's not really limited to a certain segment or a certain section of audiences any longer. It has a good reach in both urban and rural and across the demographic profiles as well. And that's been a significant shift from what we have seen in the past.
All right. Thank you for this. So one last question for today, and then we can wrap the session. Are there any particular trends which you feel are very different in the urban and the rural segment, which has been considerably noticeable in the last 1.5 years because of the whole COVID pandemic?
So, if I can take that question, Vishwa, we've done a study in rural India to understand how consumers in rural had been impacted by COVID. This is a study that we've done towards the. Am I audible? Uh,
Yes, you're audible.
Yes,
Hello.
you are.
Okay. So yeah, um, so this study was done towards the latter part of last year to understand the impact of COVID, and that study indicated to us some very interesting trends. Rural India is a lot more resilient, a lot more confident about their ability to bounce back as compared to urban India, which was, and admittedly so, it was much more severely hit by the first wave. And we are now doing, we've just completed fieldwork for the post second wave understanding of how, what has been the impact of rural India. And that'll be interesting to kind of contrast against the post first wave study that we've done. But they were much more resilient. There is a lot more confidence in the economy as such and their personal well-being. I think health is a major concern of rural India, and that's probably a reflection of the poor quality of infrastructure. So if digital is going to be, and then digital is something that has been adopted significantly. So what we've seen post the first wave or around that time, there was a significant interest in purchasing digital devices in rural India. And that tells us that people are looking to kind of diversify their access to the world via the digital media that is available to them. And I think given the concerns, the overwhelming concerns and fears that they have, and that's a major tension that they have, and I think Wave 2 has probably only brought the tensions really closer to home to them, is if there are services that are going to be available to them to address their requirements and needs to understand their health and addressing their medical needs via digital media, is going to be a major plus. And to my mind, that's something that in a world where rural is going to be driving internet adoption in the next 3 to 4 years, it's an important service and an avenue that can be created, which and a need that needs to be that is waiting to be addressed as such through this medium of scale.
I totally agree to the fact that, how Wi-Fi and net is now like a part of Maslow's hierarchy of needs now. So anyway, thank you so much for this insightful session. A special thanks to all our panelists for being here with us today and making this possible. And another thank you to go out to all our attendees for putting up such interesting questions. Thank you so much, everyone, again, and stay safe.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thank you.